Howdy, welcome to Horticulture Innovators, the podcast series where we will explore impactful innovations in horticulture. I'm Amit Dhingra, your host. I'm a professor and head of the Department of Horticultural Sciences at Texas A&M University. In each episode, we'll explore the inspiring stories of the pioneers who are contributing to sustainability, wellness, and food security through their amazing work in horticulture. Howdy, welcome to Horticulture Innovators, and today there's a little bit of a blast from the past. With me, I would like to welcome Shane Moore.
Hi.
Shane.
Hey, Amit. How's it going?
Good. Shane and I go back, way back. He was an undergraduate student, and I was assistant professor just starting my research in the state of Washington back then. And, just so glad that we've reconnected, kept in touch, actually.
Yeah.
So now he's a U.S. Premier winemaker and recently won a saddle at the Houston livestock
Yep, the Houston Rodeo.
Houston Rodeo. So we'll just have this conversation today to learn how you got here and what innovations have happened on the way and what's coming.
Okay, yeah.
So tell me, I think we left WSU. You left WSU around 2007, 8, 9?
I graduated in 2008.
8, yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened after that?
Oh man, it's been a journey. So I graduated in 2008, and I had worked in wine since 2004. I was busy making wine for different wineries and taking classes at the same time. So I don't know how I did it all, to be honest. I remember working harvest and taking 17 credits. My grades definitely suffered.
Yeah.
So did my mental health. But after that, I moved to Canada for a little bit and thought that was kind of be my forever home. But it turned out after about a year, it was really rural. And I was 25, and it was during the middle of winter. I was like, I don't think I can live here anymore. So
Yeah.
I ended up doing what a lot of winemakers do when they're young, and that's traveling hemisphere to hemisphere and working 3 months in each place and and living out of a backpack for a while.
I recall you telling me that you were following the crush.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. And I think, so you got a degree in horticulture at Washington State.
Yeah, I got a degree in Enology and Viticulture through the horticulture department at Washington State.
And so 2004, who were you making the wines for?
I worked for a small winery in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, called Coeur d'Alene Cellars.
Okay.
They were real professionals. They had really great sourcing of fruit from mostly in Washington. In Washington, the vineyards are kind of like in Texas, that they're kind of spread around the desert, and most people that make the wines are picking the fruit and then hauling it to a winery where people live. And a lot of the time where you're hauling it to is population centers like Seattle or Walla Walla or Spokane. Coeur d'Alene is part of the metro of Spokane. And, that's easier to sell wine if people are around your winery.
Yeah. Well, I recall that you were also an assistant winemaker. While you were in the lab doing undergraduate research, I remember you were trying to clone some genes or trying to do some PCR, but also on the other side, you told me you were trying to make wine for Patrick Mary at the time.
Yeah. So in 2006, North Idaho College it's just a community college.
Yeah.
So I finished up there and worked for that winery for a few years, and they got me. I knew nothing about wine before I started working for them. I was actually a pretty good chemistry student, and my chemistry professors who introduced me to the owner of the winery, and that's how I got the job. I think I got the job mostly because they were playing the Grateful Dead, and I was like, oh man, that song, I love that one. I can't remember what it was. It's probably Terrapin Station. It's my favorite one. And so we got close right away. And in 2006, I went to New Zealand to go work harvest and my first international travel experience. And after that, I was like, okay, I really do want to get my degree in winemaking. Oh, okay. So that's how I ended up in Pullman.
Yeah.
And I ended up at Mary Cellars because I just needed a job. So I knocked on their door, and they gave me a job.
Well, it's funny how the things come around. In fact, two things that I owe to you is you were the first one to, first of all, do wine tastings, but also you said, hey, do you want to do barrel tasting? And that was a whole different experience because that's very sort of private. You do it with winemakers or special folks. So you really got me into that mindset. And then second was, at the time, in 2008 is when I first heard that Texas even has a wine industry.
Oh, yeah.
When you were being offered a job and they asked me for a letter of recommendation.
Yeah, that's funny. Thank you for that.
You didn't take it. You went to Canada.
Well, yeah. But yeah, I went down. I love music, so
Yeah.
Austin has always been, that's one of the premier places for music in the world,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
And I knew that there was wineries around the Texas Hill Country.
Yeah.
Even back then, it was one of the larger grape growing regions in America. It was in the top 10 anyway. And so I had just, I think there was something on winejobs.com that I applied through. And came down, and that was my first experience in Texas as well.
And the winery was?
I believe it was Dry Comel Creek.
Yeah.
And I'm told that they still exist. So that's
cool.
pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah. It was just fascinating. I remember talking to the guy, and of course, you and I talking afterwards. I said, how do they even grow grapes here? Little did I know. I was also living under the impression that Texas is this, hot area. Nothing can grow there. But of course, it's got 11 different growing regions according to USDA and 1,300 different soil types. And of course,
I didn't know that with the soils.
I've now learned that this is the world's lab for growing anything. I mean, you can grow any, depending on what the crop is, you can find a region.
I have a question for you, and just off the top of my mind, what kind of are there limestone soils in Texas? I would assume
Hill
so,
country.
Yes. Hill country is all limestone. You're right. Interesting.
Actually, that is where
that's the holy grail for wine.
Exactly. So that is where they found the Dogridge rootstock in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And Mr. T.V. Munson, who was a resident of Texas, Denison, Texas, he's the one who sent 11 cartloads of that material that became rootstock and saved the French wine industry.
Yeah, there's a statue of him, right,
exactly.
in
Cognac.
Bordeaux.
Cognac. So he's very famous. But it's very interesting that a lot of people, including me, never knew. The funny thing is, when I was in Washington, they used to say, there was a guy in Washington who saved the world's wine industry. And then I said, what's the name? I could never get the name. Then it was like, somebody in California must save the wine industry. Well, I came to Texas for the truth.
Phylloxera. I mean, dude, that really hurt the industry in Europe, particularly, and California ultimately.
But what I understand is it's that Mr. Munson's releases, varieties, hybrids are the ones that's the base genetics that is utilized for developing phylloxera-resistant rootstocks the world over now.
Yeah.
So I hope you won't be you'll be okay with me saying that there is some Texas in every wine.
Oh, it is. I know. I think the French think that's particularly annoying. Maybe the phylloxera part.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I think there is also the fact that I was recently pouring wine in Dijon. Did a tasting under the auspices of the OIV, the International Organization of Wine and Wine. They were very gracious. They do realize, and they recognize. In fact, in the United States, Mr. Munson's name is not very well known. And when I go around state of Texas speaking at garden clubs or public speaking, I always ask the question, do you know Mr. Munson's name? So we're trying to do that. In fact, our department was successful in him getting inducted into the Hall of Fame for the American Society of Horticultural Sciences in 2024.
I'm surprised he wasn't
Exactly.
already.
He should have been,
Yeah.
but it's like the saying goes, prophets walk unrecognized in their own land.
Oh, that's the first time I've heard that one.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's really, so in a way, the history of wine in Texas is very old, but it's just like with time, things change, and we're trying to bring it back. In fact, we are now currently working on genomic characterization of all the remaining Munson varieties, hybrids that he had released. He had released over 300.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back then. About 60 are available.
And so he was doing not only rootstock research, but also research on varietals and.
Yeah, he was trying to develop table grapes primarily.
Okay.
So he was a quintessential sort of, I guess, horticulturist, and he had developed magnolias, peaches, strawberries. So imagine mid 1800s when you're trying to do this, 1870s or so, where you're a prolific plant breeder, and he had a nursery. So he had a whole catalog of trees that he used to sell. And he's called the Da Vinci of Denison because he designed the hoe for farming. He also has some drawings of flying machines before we knew about helicopters. It's fascinating. There's a book called Grape Man of Texas, and it's just a fascinating read. It's like, am I reading about a plant scientist? No, this is like a guy who's going into engineering. But at that time, there were these polymath people who would develop things, and he's probably one of those.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah.
I'll have to read that book.
See what happens when you come to Texas? The truth reveals itself. So going back to, I was just saying, through you, I learned about wine tasting and all, and it's come full circle now. Texas is, of course, one of the top 5 industries in the state now, but it's fascinating. Going back to your journey, and I know you said there was a lot of need and you were working with Patrick Mary. What type of sort of technologies that were being used, and now that you yourself are a premium winemaker, what kind of innovations have happened in the wine world?
Man, so the wine world's an interesting place because there's so much history. Civilization, Western civilization's basically been built upon wine. And depending on where you're at and what winery you're at, you could be making wine essentially the same way that people have in Burgundy for over 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Or, you could be working at a winery in California that's using GCMS and, UV technology for sanitation. So it's kind of running the gamut. I've been on both sides of it. I've worked at very large wineries, particularly in California and Australia, that are on the cutting edge of technology, and that's using things like UV to sanitize tanks instead of water, or we've been experimenting with it's sound technology for sanitation in barrels. Or
is it ultrasound or
ultrasound.
Wow,
yeah.
Okay, so it just disrupts all the microbes, I guess.
Yeah. That's that's kind of some new technology that's going on. Some of the highly, adopted technologies that's been recent is chitosanase, and that's been something that 12 years ago didn't exist, and now every single winemaker in the whole world understands what chitosanase, its uses, and how it can be.
So just for our audience, what does it do? So do you add it to the wine, or do you add it to the barrel? Or
you can add it to the wine. Yeah. So what it does, yeast, all forms of yeast, their cell walls are based on chitosan, right?
Yeah.
It's a fungi. And the chitosanase is an enzyme derived from I can't remember what exact bacteria it is. I'd have to look that up. But it's derived from a bacteria that breaks down those cell walls.
Okay,
so it's highly, it's in very small amounts can really disrupt the entire fungi ecosystems.
Wow. So that's where, it's to really create sustainable approaches so that you're not putting too much, but also preventing water.
You can prevent water use for sanitation. You can also, with that, use less sulfur dioxide, or not even use filtration if that's what you're after. That's an interesting one. One of the other ones I think we don't talk about very often, unless you're really a wine nerd, is cold stabilization in wine.
Yeah.
So if you put a wine in a refrigerator, a white wine, it'll form naturally it would form tartrate crystals.
Yeah.
And some people, if you're opening a bottle of wine and there's tartrate crystals in it, might think it's glass. It's it confuses people. It's not, and they're totally harmless, but they are slightly unsightly. The old method was just to use a giant refrigeration system and chill the wine for 2 weeks, and then generally that would all take care of itself. Now there's electrodialysis systems that you can use to dial it in. They're called stars. That's the trade name, I guess.
Yeah.
But lots of large wineries are using that. It cuts your energy use. It can cut the energy use of a large winery by 20 to 30%.
Wow. Well, so let's go back to Canada. So you spent a year there. What happened? So and then you went to New Zealand. I think you started doing the crush kind of thing.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. That was like experiential learning at best.
It's so fun, and I highly recommend it. If you're into the wine industry, you can get a job, particularly if you want to study wine, through university beforehand. You can get a job working for 2 to 3 months at a winery during harvest season, and it's great. You can get visas all over the world. You can go to the southern hemisphere, be it South America or Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and you can work a harvest there. And then you can come to the northern hemisphere and you get a month or 2 off and you can work a harvest there. It's a great way to travel the world and to learn about wine.
You can get educational credit for that too if you want.
Oh yeah, totally.
So we have a certificate here in viticulture and enology as part of the degree program in horticultural sciences. And as part of that, of course, people learn to make wine. But we also have, study abroad programs where they could do it, but or take your path where you're just following the crush.
Yeah, and you get paid, and I lived out of my backpack for over 3 years. Yeah, and it was really fun.
Since I know you're a music, you compose music and you write songs. I think you should write a song, "Follow the Crush." I'll perform with you.
I have, someday I'm gonna write a novel about it as well. I really want to.
So after you did all the crush, where did you land?
So I worked in Australia for 3 harvests in different regions of Australia, and by 2011, after living in a backpack for 3 years, it was definitely enough. And so in 2011, by that time, I had met my now wife. She was doing the same thing. We met in Western Australia, and we were like, okay, let's become adults. I was 27 years old. It was about time, I guess. And we ended up in Sonoma County, California. Huge wine industry there. My wife grew up there as well, so that was pretty easy. We actually had to move in with her parents because after living out of your backpack for 3 years, you don't have a lot of money to put down for your first apartment. And I worked for a pretty large winery, very widely known, a winery called La Crema. I was I remember one of their assistant winemakers there.
You brought me a Chardonnay once when we met in the Wine Science Center in Tri-Cities from there.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
So that was great. Well, so you worked in all these places, and from California, now, is that where you directly moved to Oregon then? Or?
Yeah, so the company that owns La Crema it's a family-owned company. It's called Jackson Family Wines. And the owner, Barbara Banke, was buying some property in Oregon that was vineyards in Oregon. There was an opportunity up there, and they didn't have any property or any holdings up there. And I just kind of asked them, hey, you need someone from up there. I went to Washington State. Yeah. A lot of the winemakers that studied there are in Oregon now. So I know people, I know the place. You should hire me. And I've been running one of their wineries there ever since, so for about 13 years.
Wow. 13 years you've been right there at McMinnville.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I know that you travel the world, but this visit to Texas was special. Share what happened.
Yeah. There's a very large wine competition, and it's a part of the Houston Rodeo. And I didn't know much about it until about 4 months ago, and our marketing team entered one of our wines in it because the Willamette Valley, where I live and work, was the featured wine region. And so we all wanted to put on a really good showing, and we entered some of our best wines, myself and my colleagues, and we won the trophy, which ended up being a saddle, not
That's right.
the saddle trophy for the best wine of the region. And it was really fun. We went the other day. There were 6,000 people tasting wine. It was really fun.
It's a massive event, and Houston Radio really supports education in all areas around all the universities around in Texas. So we're very grateful to them.
Yeah, I learned a lot about that. How they give millions of dollars to scholarships for ag students. So
it's just
that is really amazing.
It's a great support system, and our students get to go there as well. And whenever we do an awards banquet at the college or university level, we also interact with them. It's a fascinating program. That's great. So, well, first of all, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
And I was fortunate enough to try some of those wines yesterday, and they were just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, they're totally world-class wines.
I agree. Yeah. Because they're being made by a world-class winemaker, you know. It's like so, how would you describe your winemaking style? I hope it's not a secret to share, or you can.
No, I talk about it all the time. Yeah. I have a philosophy about wine that I there's this thing in wine called terroir, and I'm sure if you've heard about wine at all, you've maybe heard that term.
Yes.
There's lots of definitions for terroir. It's originally a French term, but my favorite one of my favorite professors at WSU, Dr. Fellman.
Yeah, that's right.
big personality. Yes. His definition of terroir is it's everything that we know nothing about. And I love that. I love that idea. I say it often. I think wine is one of the last things that there's still mystery. I mean, there's lots of mysteries in the world still, but wine's just like, you can't Google what a wine's going to taste like, and AI is not going to let you know either. And there's just so many things that happen in wine. And every single day when I'm making wine, there are things that I learned in university that science tells us this is the way it is.
Yeah.
And have been replicated, and then something completely different will happen, and it's just like, wild. But my philosophy is to really let terroir shine, and I try to just be an interpreter of a particular place. So I only work with 2 vineyards in the Willamette Valley. So I've dedicated my entire career to 2 little spots of earth, and kind of interpreting those spots of earth through wine.
Poetic and artistic. Yeah, both of them. Well, John Fellman is doing great. I met him recently in January.
Great. I haven't talked to John forever.
Yeah, he's doing amazing. And he's still the same. So always imparting wisdom.
Yes.
And I heard that prophets walk and recognized in their own land from him for the first time. So.
Did you?
So that's him. You know, you touched upon a point just now, which is really cool, that AI won't do that. And I think I have personally experienced it, but I wanted to hear from you. You've been around the world around wine. What's the common thing that binds everything within wine, with wine or around wine?
Oh, I mean, I think it's humanity. I think civilization essentially was built upon wine, Western civilization. Yeah. And it's the common humanity amongst us. It brings people together. We were at a dinner last night, and, I had never met almost anyone in that room, but we all shared wine in common, and I think it really does speak to us as humans and humanity in general.
Well, the country of Georgia has been making wine for 8,000 years, right?
Yeah.
So you could say also the Middle Eastern piece, but also if you go to the Far East, I mean, part of fermentation process was the key to bring communities together, or the products of fermentation.
Yeah.
So in a way, horticulture is one of the oldest, and processing from there has been, fermentation has been the oldest. I think that was my experience as well. When we started bringing people around Texas wine, for example, through the Spirited Learning program, very quickly we realized that that's become a very unique program. And it's also you were asking me what it is. It's a professional development experiential learning program where horticulture businesses come in. We always include a winery. But what we have started seeing is connection between students and the community and the industry. And these students are not from horticulture. I mean, if you have 600 attendees, 80% students are from 100 different majors across the campus. So it's really massive, and most of them do come from the largest class we teach, which is Hort 416. So 600 people. It's taught in a very big classroom, the largest classroom available on campus. So we are trying to build that community, educating people. But I also say that horticulture is like the siren song. Wine is like the siren song of horticulture. You give wine to people, they forget there's more to horticulture.
That's true.
So I have to always remind us, like, yeah, but there's also pecans, there's also flowers, and there's also fruit, and of course they go with wine.
Well, one of my favorite parts of getting my degree in horticulture through Washington State was taking like pomology courses and interior plantscaping, and those parts of horticulture I find immensely fascinating as well. I
have to agree.
Yeah.
Well, so this cultural part is really cool, and I think that's the key part. I mean, as you said yesterday, I knew a few people, but we made new friends there.
Of course.
There. Well, I want to also, on talking about this, we know that it brings humanity together, people together, but there's this new trend where we are seeing decrease in consumption, generally speaking. How do you perceive that? What's going on with it? And what do you think is the end to that?
I mean, we are definitely experiencing a decrease in alcohol consumption as a culture in America, particularly, and the rest of the world, if you look at that as well. It's kind of tough for the industry right now. I mean, any industry that goes through a 10 to 20% decline in a matter of 5 years is going to be struggling. But on the other side of that, people are still enjoying wine. I think a lot of it is our sort of lack of togetherness is what's causing it. We're so often on our screens. We have so many options of entertainment in our own homes. And I don't think anyone should drink alone. I don't. That's not something I would condone. But I think we do need to remember that being together is so good mentally and spiritually for us all. But that's something that the winery industry is dealing with. I personally do make a wine that's a low alcohol wine, and it's a premium low alcohol wine. The story behind it actually was we all know what seltzers are. My wife works in the wine industry as well, so we were going out camping one day about 5 years ago, and she bought seltzers, and she only drinks wine, and I was like, babe, what? Why? Why? And she said, well, if you made a wine that I could drink during the day, I drink that instead. I was like, okay, I will. So we started making wines that are about 7% alcohol. In America, it has to legally be 7.5% alcohol to be considered wine. So that's kind of where the threshold is. Otherwise, it's a food product or a malt beverage or something else. But
that's interesting you bring that up. So two things came up. One, your perspective. I hadn't thought of it this way, where we are getting more and more isolated, and therefore that's impacting, because we thought that it's a health craze alone.
I mean, of course it has something to do with it as well, but if you look at mortality rates of people who enjoy wine or even other alcohol beverages versus people who don't, general mortality is lower for people that are consuming
I think
alcohol.
The Harvard study, which has been running for over 70 years, has shown that sense of belonging, sense of community is the best indicator or the top indicator for a happy, healthy life.
Exactly.
And I think this is the sort of libation is one part, especially with wines, actually. And it's got resveratrol and other kind of antioxidants in it, which really are quercetin is present there, which is an antioxidant as well. So there are a lot of such benefits. And of course, we both know that, but I'm just trying to, and I'm not condoning drink or not drink, that's people's choices, of course. But I think the fact that it does bring that social aspect is very important. I was speaking with, in a previous episode, I was speaking with Dr. Andre Bodezadu. She's our associate professor of enology and the AgriLife extension specialist. She's the statewide specialist. And she told me about, and she's from Romania. Okay. She talked about a method of making wine. It's called a piquette, which is also creates low alcohol.
So the wine that I created for my wife, and now it's actually going to be distributed throughout the United States, is a Paquette.
Oh, wow.
It's a Paquette style wine.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to call it a Paquette because I've tasted a lot of Paquettes, and most of them did not suit my palate personally. So I wanted to distinguish the product that I made from that. But yes, it was a Paquette.
Oh,
and
wow, okay.
Those are, and also you're actually you're using parts of the grape that you might not otherwise use as well.
Well, that's a sustainable piece as well, right? I mean, you're not throwing away more, especially in hard times where you don't want to, you want to reduce wastage and make sure you have better economics or a return.
Yeah.
And I think, so in a way, when she told me that, I said, so this new trend of low alcohol is really not new. It's recycled.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people have been doing this going back thousands of years.
Of course, yeah. And if you were a farmer in France or Romania 1,000 years ago, you might not have very good drinking water.
Yeah.
But if you mixed that water that you did have with some grape juice and fermented it, and you had a low alcohol beverage, kind of like beer, that you could drink safely and not get sick.
Exactly. No, that's really fascinating. And, so that's the low alcohol. And what about, have you tried any no alcohol wine?
I've tried very many ones.
And?
I haven't tried one that I would drink yet. I think I personally do enjoy a no alcohol beer occasionally. But so if you think about wine and beer and the matrix of what exists within the product, alcohol is a much higher percentage of the product of wine as opposed to beer. Alcohol is, if you're familiar with kind of its taste attributes, it provides body, it has a lot of texture, and it has a lot of sweetness. And what that does is balance out the tannins and the acidity in wine. So it creates a balance in wine. I was working with some PhD students actually from WSU, Caroline Merrill. She works with me as well. She has been researching this. She works in our company. And it's a food product if it doesn't have alcohol. So then that does open up the doors for almost adding anything, because the wine itself, like the wines that I make, really high quality wines, that's just grapes. That's it. If you can just put grapes in a tank and make fermented juice from it, that's the holy grail. But
as natural as it gets.
As natural as it gets. But de-alkalized wine, you can add whatever food product. In your, I saw some Cheez-Its out there, like it's no different than that. So I've played around with some of the food additives and still haven't found anything that I thought was compelling.
One question is, if you completely remove the alcohol, should it still be called wine?
I don't think it should. It's kind of like there's that debate with the plant-based meats. That can you actually call them meat?
So now that's why they call milked almonds or milked hazelnuts rather than milk, because that's the whole argument.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's going back to the tradition. And also when you remove the sort of wholesome ingredient of a true wine, does that still promote socialization? Does that still foster that community?
Yeah.
You probably, no, it's no different, right? Maybe you drink it when you're alone.
Yeah.
No, no alcohol, and then once you're with company, you can switch. I also think that, I think a lot of times we just start going towards this or that. We should do this and that rather than, I mean, if they want to have a product like that, why not?
Yeah.
I don't know about the health aspects, and when you process it, what happens? Who knows?
It's you can pull out alcohol a lot of different ways from wine, either be a fractional distillation or a spinning cone is a technology that's used often. But you're not removing the resveratrol out of a red wine or anything like that. But you are removing a lot of the body and the flavor.
But also the sensory parts are gone, right?
The sensory parts are gone. When there's it just tastes like really acidic tea.
That's true. Very highly. Also tannin is like I tried one. I just puckered up. I was like, "What is this?" After one sip, I couldn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Anybody can enjoy. So let's say, so you've been here 13 years. Tell us about the company a little bit, where you were at.
Yeah, it's owned by Barbara Banke. It was started by Jess Jackson.
Okay.
Barbara Banke and him were married decades ago. But Jess Jackson started Kendall Jackson Vintners Reserve Chardonnay. It's been the #1 selling single wine in America for almost 35 years, I think.
Wow.
And so that's where they started out of, and then that was based out of Sonoma and Lake counties in California.
Okay.
But yeah, they have wine properties all throughout the world, in pretty much every continent that grows grapes, and they're just great people too. They're really fun to work
Wonderful,
with.
wonderful.
Yeah,
So
great people.
Thanks for that, and Shane, looking forward, and I know you're an innovator, always tied in tradition, but also innovation.
Yeah.
What do you foresee for wine world? I mean, are there going to be more innovations? Of course, we keep hearing about blockchain, AI, machine learning. How is that changing the wine world? Not the prediction of the wine product, but generally the whole business.
Yeah, I that's something I don't really know much about. I think wine has so much tradition that we definitely do change slowly. I do remember when there were like fungible tokens that were a bigger thing.
Yeah.
You know, like some of the wine professionals were tying fungible. I don't know if I said that right, but those tokens to different bottles of wine to actually, I guess, display provenance. Because in actually the wine world, it's something that is an issue for the very, very premium wines that are, they're collectors' wines. Sure. Investment grade is actually faking those wines. There's a great book called Billionaire's Vinegar about a man, and it's a true story about a whole ring and a person that was involved in it who were creating these wines that were worth thousands of dollars and passing off fakes that were those. So the fungible tokens can kind of help tie a particular bottle to a provenance.
Okay.
But other than that, I don't know much outside in the technology sector.
Well, for a layperson, if you were to say, what's the difference between a $50 bottle and a $500 bottle? Because we've seen those, of course, different markets. What's in a sensory perception way or in an experiential way? What could be the difference between the two?
Yeah. Well, often those very high collectible wines are from vineyards that have maybe existed for hundreds or thousands of years and have a provenance that goes back and where people have recognized their ultimate quality and wanted to collect them. And often, the supply is extremely limited. Okay. So that is kind of the basis of it. But at the end of the day, some of these very high value wines are a luxury item, much like a Birkin bag might be, right? Yeah. In some ways, it's a status symbol more than anything else. I make quite expensive wines, but they're not in that stratospheric level. We produce wines that we're putting $120 on the bottle, which is an expensive wine, but the amount of time and effort that goes into it and the artisanship of myself and of the grape growing team, I think justifies that price often. So I can look you in the eye and say, I think that this wine is worth that price. And so you are paying for an artisan product in some senses.
But I've also experienced, and I've had the fortune of tasting, not owning, some of these wines. But what I have experienced is the sensory perception is elevated.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I remember there is a very, Inwood Estates is a very popular, very low volume wine producer in the state. And I remember the finish from that wine was with me for 30 minutes on. I drove away and I kept
thinking about it.
I kept coming back. I could feel the flavors or in my memory. So I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Now, if this is continuing for 30 minutes, it's the experience of that.
It's the experience. I often talk about wines that stop time. Where it can be a wine, but think about maybe like what some of your most favorite activities are. For me, it can be like a bluebird powder day on one of the best ski resorts, or that perfect moment when I'm fly fishing on the Deschutes River. But wine can do that same feeling where nothing else around you exists, right? It puts you completely in the moment.
Yeah.
Those are the special wines to me.
Oh, that's really fascinating. There's one more concept that I wanted to sort of share or discuss or see your opinion on that. There's a sort of hypothesis or understanding that if you reduce the tonnage from your vineyard to, say, 1 to 1.5 tons per acre, the quality of the wine just, accelerates or goes really high. Have you experienced that?
That's a good question. So I think it's all about, in most things in life, it's balance.
Yeah.
To have a balanced crop load where your inputs meet your outputs, right? So where your sinks meet your sources in horticulture speak.
Yeah.
So to have the right amount of canopy to where it's not too much but not too little, to create the photosynthesis required for the right amount of fruit on the vine. If you have too little fruit, then you'll get too much vegetative growth. And if you have too much fruit, the photosynthesis won't be able to ripen your crop levels. So it does depend on where you're growing, and it depends on your setup as a vineyard. It also depends on your ultimate product. For example, for our products, we'll talk in tons per acre, short tons per acre, not very scientific, but short tons per acre, we'll look at about a 3 to 3.5 ton per acre crop yield will be very balanced for what we're looking for. If we have much less than that, it'll ripen too quickly.
Yeah.
And if we have more than that, it might not ripen at all.
Yeah. Well, on a photosynthetic basis, I'll say correct answer. But that's, it's also based on what type of soils you have. And I think when I hear that, because there are some proponents in the industry, they say, well, terroir doesn't exist. We can make a wine, higher quality wine, just by managing crop load. And in fact, there was a conversation. I said, good for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I totally disagree with that because I can taste the soil in a wine. I can taste... when you're really good at tasting, and there's that 10,000 hour thing, I've definitely tasted wines for over 10,000 hours in my life, and I can taste what soil that wine is grown on, be it volcanic, limestone, marine sedimentary, all these things, and they feel different on your palate. So that's
on your palate.
Yes, but then I can explain what I'm tasting, and people understand what I'm tasting.
So, are you a super taster by any chance?
No, I'm not. Okay, I'm definitely not. I like coffee black.
Oh, okay. So, so this is something that you acquired as a skill.
It's definitely an acquired skill. I probably have some aptitude.
Yeah.
But it is an acquired skill.
Wow.
It's just like playing music or anything else.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so we are at an educational institution, and students often wonder that they will get a degree. I'm kind of coming back to the basis where we started. We met each other. 2007 is when you joined the lab, I believe. Yep. But the question is, a lot of students feel like, I'll get a degree, I'll get to this job. It's a linear path. What do you say to that?
in terms of the wine industry?
Well, no, just generally career-wise.
Oh man, the linear path, I don't know. I don't think it exists really. I think so many things in life are just kind of where you're at and the people you know. So knowing more people, being there, I think makes a big difference. I definitely took a path that I wasn't prepared for. I knew what I wanted to do, but how I got there was pretty unique, and I think everyone goes on that. Yeah.
Well, I would say when you were exceptional in chemistry, as well as you're doing a good molecular biology in the lab, I was like, this guy should do a PhD.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
remember you wanting me to do it.
And then you was like, hey, let me take you to the barrel tasting. And I was like, okay, now I know. That's the force is strong with that one. He's not coming to doing a PhD with me. Well, thank you for being here, Shane. This has been
Thank you.
amazing talking to you. And again, congratulations to you for your first saddle.
Yes,
I wish
first
you many
saddle.
more. Wish you many more, and keep coming back. Thank you for being here.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
thanks,
All
Amit.
right, thank you.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Horticultural Innovators. Subscribe if you want to learn more and spread the good word. Thanks and giga.